we bring in Dylan Butler, because it's Dylan Butler's time to bring in his mug, where he is continuing to be grateful on a Wednesday morning. Good morning, Dylan.
I'm always grateful to be with you, John.
Oh, there you go. Hit the promo. It is the busy end of the business end of the schedule, where you have your rounds of chaos. You had 70,000 folks who started out upset, and then Atlanta put a number on Inter Miami and proved that they are in fact mortal without Lionel Messi. But I mean, but this is one of the things that I think that folks kind of skip, and they lose in the ideas here. Just because they don't have Messi in their lineup, they ain't chopped liver. I mean, Leo Campana has proven to be worthy of the contract extension. Sergi Busquets, still a magician. They didn't have Jordi Alba either. Yes, you saw some flaws, especially on the back line, but Inter Miami ain't chopped liver, even though Messi's not in the lineup. They're still pretty decent, but they don't just suck.
No, that's gonna be on their T-shirt.
Ain't chopped liver. They just don't suck, you know.
Yeah. Chopped liver in the front. And
yes, chopped liver in the front. We don't suck on the back.
Yeah. No, for sure. Listen, great win for Atlanta, and I think that they've proven, it's such an overhaul in the summer. Like, you're always, I think, nervous about how quickly so many new parts. And Miami's in the same way, right? They made a huge shuffle as well, so it's a similar situation for them. Is like you don't know how quickly guys can get acclimated and be on the same page and work as a finely tuned machine. Now, Miami had the extra edge of having the greatest player on the planet and his buddies he's played with for such a long time, right? At Barcelona. So that helps. But I think Atlanta is such a interesting story, I think, going towards the postseason. Like, if obviously, tied for first, I think, in goals against still, right? But I mean, listen, if you're putting up 5 spots and 4 spots, and if you're scoring the goals, like, I'm all for, a 5-4 playoff game, man. Bring it. Like, that'll be a ton of fun. By the way, this was pretty cool. I was heading home from my high school football broadcast on Saturday.
Varsity Media on YouTube, by the way.
Thank you. It was a 1:30 kick, about 3-hour game, 20 minutes or so of, breaking down stuff and heading to the cars and saying goodbye, and got to listen to probably the first 20 or so minutes of the radio call of Atlanta, Miami.
Mike and Jason.
Good to hear my friends. Yeah,
it's always solid. Nick Leafy for Dylan Butler. Dylan, what's on your mind, Nick?
Rebranding. That's what I want to hear about. I want to hear about some rebranding up in the PNW.
I thought you were going to rip me on my Newcastle, just like holding on for dear life yesterday, Nick. But
what am I going to?
Doing nothing.
I can't rip Newcastle. I can't rip them because they did exactly what they needed to do, and Milan had chance after chance after chance after chance, and we sank nothing. So it was almost like if we remember the first movie, The Predator, like where all like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like all the soldiers are in line and they're unloading every gun on earth into the jungle at the same time. And the guy comes out, Ponch comes out, and it's like, we hit nothing. That's exactly what yesterday felt like.
You had the one Balotelli-esque kind of miss in front of goal, which was, after heart palpitations was humorous for me. But
oh God, yeah, Raphael Leao. I was like, buddy, just put the laces behind it, please, God. But look with. As far as what's going on right now up with Seattle, a recognizable logo, recognizable scheme going on up there. Why the shift now? What does it seem like that makes any sense to you, or does it seem like something that's branding for the sake of branding?
might be that, to be honest, because I think it works for them, right? And I think we saw the same with the Revs, like, the Revs old logo, like as sort of kind of campy and whatever, like it worked for them, like it was cool. And I don't know what rebrand logo we're up to in Montreal, but I would just wish they would stick to one. But yeah, listen, it's dare I say an iconic logo, right? In MLS. Why mess with it? I don't get it. I mean, and it's such a passionate fan base. Unless they blow it out of the water, man, I don't think that's going to go down well.
I feel like the same thing with and we all know how much I hate Juventus, right? I mean, I don't think that's any secret. But Juventus's old school oval logo was spectacular. Like to me, that was like, when you saw it, it said Italy, it said Serie A, it just was class. And then they changed it to this weird J, like, sans serif font type face, like an AI generated J, and it just has nothing. It's completely soulless, which sort of matches the club, so it makes sense. But yeah, but I do agree that unless they knock it out of the park, even if it's just the badge, right? And not. And Bart says, I've heard it's just an update to the logo and crest, but not a change to the colors or name. That's great.
Well, yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, you can't
but
do that.
yeah, exactly. But I do think that we are so desperate for everything new and fresh here in America that we need to hang on to some of the relics. We need to hang on to some of the classic design. And I feel like we're losing that a bit if we start pushing, for new logos within this young league.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, you look at throughout sports in America and North America. What are the most iconic brands? In football, it's the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like, they are staying as they are. It's the New York Yankees. They're not changing the interlocking NY, right? The Montreal Canadiens, they are sticking with what they are. Like, so again, I kind of wish, some marketing people who I think generally are maybe younger skewing would kind of like pump the brakes on some of these changes.
Oh no, we can't have that. It's got to be shiny, and you've got to update it. It's got to be edgy with the finger pistols and literally, it's like, we got to be edgy. That's what
Listen,
it's.
sometimes out in the backyard, a grilled burger is all you need, right? You don't need all the extra fancy accoutrements with it.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, on Parks and Rec, right? On Parks and Rec, they had an episode with a burger cook-off.
Yeah.
And Rob Lowe's character comes out. He's like, "This is a A2 Wagyu beef with with shallot and da da da." And then the other dude comes out. He's like, "It's beef. It's just beef." And it's just like, but it's hard because we hear so often, it's like, oh, we love going to these other places where they have all this old history and all this old culture, and then it's like, hey, now you're like, we can't have that here, we're going to change it. It's like, I don't know, I'm getting too old, guys. I'm getting too old. I can feel it setting in now. But Dylan, a question I have for you from MLS side is, closing out the season, from the West Coast perspective, who are some of the teams that you think could be maybe dark horse candidates to maybe shock the world in a way?
I don't know if anyone's doing more of a shocking of the world right now than the Timbers are, right? I mean, this was a team that, when they let go of Giovanni Savarese, looked like that was it, right? Like they were done. Maybe it's the new coach bump. Who knows? Maybe Evander and he didn't get along. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but suddenly Evander is doing what they thought he could do as a record signing for that club. And, again, maybe a new coach bump and a little bit of a tweak in tactics, and suddenly the Timbers are pushing up into into a playoff spot, and a lot of other teams around them that are you would think would be fighting and pushing for spots aren't, which is helping them as well make their push. But I think a push in, they are the dark horse. But I think a dark horse, perhaps in the postseason, could be their other Cascadia foes, the Whitecaps, right? Like real like Ryan Gauld, man. Like I don't know if it's just because they're out there in the super Pacific Northwest and no one talks about them, and but he's low key, an MVP candidate. You're not gonna say favorite, right? But he should be in that mix. And Brian White as well, right? Like blue collar Jersey dude who just scores ugly goals, but he scores them, right? And they team up really well. So I think they might be that team that could do some damage as well. I mean, look what they're doing on the road, right? Like they've got a million different things happening at BC Place right now, and they're getting all these points away from home, which is super impressive as well.
Well, and now all you need to do is mention Vancouver, and you get Nick to talk about an Italian head coach.
I love that guy, man. I really do. Sartini's just, spectacular. The way he has sort of, he's very seductive with the media. He drops enough modern pop culture references while still aging himself, while still appearing approachable. And his passion on the sidelines, it really, I think you're right, Dylan, in that, because you are in the extreme Pacific Northwest, that you're not getting a ton of mainstream media coverage, right? It's only when something really crazy happens that you're popping up on any of the conversation points. But Vancouver with Sartini, it just seems like a match made in heaven. And I love what he's doing up there. And I'm always proud when one of my Italian brothers is handling business and doing well. We need more Italians here. Even though he's an Inter guy, I have to look at him through Azzurri lens. Materazzi, I know he was getting his coaching badges. I would like to see Marco Materazzi here in America. I want to see what he could do with a team. I think there's an opportunity there. Get some of my Italian brothers over here.
And I love his title for Gauld as well. Like he calls him the working class DP. Like I think it's perfect for that guy, right? Because he's not the flash. He's not, he's the guy willing to do the dirty work as well, play multiple positions. I was all for his signing as soon as I saw him come in and watched some of his clips. And again, he's not talked about enough. I think he fits Vancouver in that sense. They're not talked about enough, and they love that. don't talk about them. They want to be that sort of team lurking in the shadows. And I think certainly Sartini, he does it to the media, and I'd imagine it's a similar message behind closed doors. Like, no one kind of believes in us. This group is tight. We're together, and we're going to shock the world.
Can we talk about how stupid the West is right now?
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, if you think about it, that 2 through 7, 6 teams separated by that many points. And for those who get urges listening, 3 points. 3 points separate 2 through 7. And then you get that group that's trying to get into the playoffs. 5 teams separated by 4 points. What in the ever-loving ish is going on in the Western Conference?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think I'm more excited about the East in the playoffs because I think that's going to be incredible.
It'll be a rock fight.
But yeah, I think the fight into the playoffs in the West is maybe more, more intriguing, right? Because nobody is kind of taking hold of it, right? Like even on the weekend, we saw like Sporting get up over the line. You're like, wow, that's amazing. 10 unbeaten or 10 winless to start the season. Everyone's calling for Vermees's head, and suddenly they're above the line. And then that only lasted for 24 hours because now Portland jumps them, right? Minnesota in their amazing home venue of Allianz Field with the great beer garden. They cannot win home games. They only seem to win road games. It's Dallas and Austin are like sleepwalking. LA is somehow around, even with like 12 guys out for the season. Yeah, no, it's nuts. The only team not involved are the Rapids, of course, but everyone else is very much still alive. And Salt Lake too, like they had such a bump during the year, and now they're trending the other way. With the Ruiz injury, that they just can't. They don't have that guy to replace him, right? So, I think Houston certainly trending up, Vancouver trending up, Portland and SKC kind of trending up. So, like, who drops below that line, right? Like, I think if Minnesota drops out of the postseason altogether, yes, I know they just extended Adrian Heath's contract, but not a good look for the Loons then.
Nick, go for it.
Yeah, I agree with the idea around Minnesota is that if you have a fall off now, I don't see how you keep inching and then tell your fan base that you're serious about making any sort of progress. That's just, I don't know. It seems like they're a franchise that's sort of stagnated, and sputtered out the gate from the time of inception, and then just kind of had a few moments here and there where they kind of peaked and then just sort of flatlined. The main question I have right now is around Colorado and the angst that's been going on with that fan base and the walkout where allegedly the stadium staff turned off the public-facing clock. It seems like it's a team at war with its own fan base. What can be done, in your opinion, if anything, to salvage the relationship between the fans and the organization?
Yeah, that is. We started this conversation about rebrands, right? If there is a club that needs a rebrand, man, it is the Colorado Rapids. Like, I don't know. Bring back Rapid Man. Maybe that's the answer. Like, we John and I tried to talk about this last week, but there is no easy fix. There is no easy answer. Like, I think it's, kind of, they want to talk about the Rapid way, but what is that? Like,
failure.
Yeah, exactly. You can't kind of moneyball your way if you don't have the academy bringing, cultivating your first team players. And if you're not Philly, who find these like third division German league players who work great for MLS and your system, right? They don't seem to play any distinct style. So they don't have a great academy, it seems, at least from this 30,000 foot view that we have here. They don't seem to have a playing style. They don't really do too well with their international signings, with the exception of Jack Price, who's been injured all year, and he's been injury prone. So yeah, I don't know. I think, again, I think they need some sort of just a complete overhaul, like one of those those shows on what is it, like HGTV or whatever, just like tear down that house and like rebuild it up. And I don't know. There is no easy answer there, unfortunately.
A complete reno is what they're looking
yeah,
at.
pretty much.
Oh, goodness gracious. Nick, go for it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's always tough to see a team fight its own fan base, like with this level, where it's like, okay, we're walking out. Okay, cool. We're going to shut off the clock so you can't figure out when. Ha ha ha. I don't know. It looks like a lot of mustache twirling, and that's just
Snidely whiplash going on with Stan Kroenke.
It is. It's just absurd to me. I have to say, because I think, as far as all of us sports talking heads, we always love talking about how we're right and we called stuff over the horizon and we just knew what we were talking about. Very rarely do we hear I was wrong. I would like to take this opportunity because I believe in a couple of conversations we've had, there are 3 things that I was dead wrong about. One, Portland, right? Agreed. Portland, I said, was dead in the water. They're done for. They needed a complete overhaul, and here they are, like you talked about. Dark horse, 9th spot. They're competing. I thought Houston Dynamo made a horrific decision in bringing Captain Khaki Ben Olsen in, and he seems to have been just the ticket with what they needed, right? And then St. Louis, I said St. Louis would be falling back to the middle of the pack by the All-Star break with the style that they play.
To be fair, John was with you on that one. He'll take the L there as well.
There we go. And
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
And those are 3 areas where I looked at the Western Conference. I made calls, and it was just no, absolutely dead ass wrong. St. Louis, I mean, from what we're seeing, is there any reason to doubt them going into the playoffs?
At your peril, I guess. I mean, the only, I guess, question is, like, we don't have a data point of them in the postseason, right? Like, it's all brand new. But that's also what makes them, I think, so dangerous, right? Like, they've answered the bell. I mean, except I guess Leagues Cup, they didn't perform too well, but John had questioned the way that they played in the heat in St. Louis and playing in August, and they've done that. They've had injuries to designated players and key guys, and they've weathered that storm as well. And one thing that was true when Red Bull was at its Red Bull best, it was very much a collective. And yes, you had special players. You had Bradley Wright Phillips. You had Sasha as your playmaker in the midfield. You had Dax just doing the dirty work in the midfield as well. But it was a collective. Like, it was the team mentality, and I think we're seeing that from St. Louis, right? Like, you need a quality goalkeeper. And to be honest, when we're talking about L's, I'll take one as well, because I was like, Roman Berkey, like, this is a designated player goalkeeper. Like, you don't use that status and spend that money on a goalkeeper for an expansion team. Like, it didn't make sense there. And he's proven to be one of the best in the league, right? If not the best in the league. So it is puzzling. It's mesmerizing. It shouldn't happen, but that's the beauty, I think, of Major League Soccer, right?
Well, all right. So for those that are confused, what is the new playoff format? Is it 4 points or 2 wins in the best of 3?
Yeah, I was worried that you would ask that. I believe that is the case. Yes.
Okay. So then if you are in a situation against a team like a St. Louis, who's basically Red Bull's Midwest, with a bit of a twist, if you basically sit there and go, all right, well, tell you what, for 2 matches, I'm just going to kick the ball long. Ball's got cooties. You got to deal with it. I mean, I think that's the next step in this. How do they adjust, knowing that they're going to have to play, in theory, the same match 3 times in a row against the same opponent in a playoff format, and basically just sit there and get found out and have to figure out different ways to win? Or do they just stick to their guns and sit there and hope that, by hoofing it, they might have to learn how to possess the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where that famous Eastern Conference final series with or two-leg series with Atlanta and Red Bull. That's the fatal flaw there, right? Like where Tata decided to do just that, right? Not play out of the back as his team was doing at the time, and just send long balls and make the point of confrontation way back. Have the second ball in the midfield instead of, or deeper in the midfield than it would have been. And Chris Armas had a plan for that and possessing the ball, and it didn't. I don't know if there was enough practice for the players to have been doing that, or they just didn't answer the bell on the day. But obviously, the deficit in the first leg at the Benz proved to be the difference in the series. So I think I'm sure that's part of what's happening at training now in St. Louis, right? With Bradley Carnello, or certainly in the manager's office among the coaches, just figuring out, all right, what's our plan B? What's our plan C? How much do we want to hold on to the ball? Do we just send it back to them and just play this like long ball tennis? I think it's definitely intriguing.
Nick, for Dylan before he goes.
Look, I think Dylan brings up a good point with, the playing against one of these Red Bull-esque teams. It's sort of like and this is for, some of the newer soccer fans, this is sort of like playing against the triple option offense, right? Like it's something you don't see every day. So it's hard to prepare for. You can't really do like 1 week going against a possession-based team, and the next week having to learn how to do a knife fight in a phone booth like you have to do against these the hyper pressing teams. But if you play them in a series, I think it's a hell of a lot easier to prepare for them. And I think that's where we're going to sort of have to see, what other cards do they have in their deck that they can pull outside of, okay, we press. Okay, yeah, but they're catching on to what we're doing. What do? We press more. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Ralph Rangnick. But what are we doing? No. We press more. Excellent. Thank you for your input. I think this new playoff is just, it's interesting. It's odd, but I love this messy ass league and its crazy rules and everything that they do to try to keep things new and fresh. It's just my 2 cents on it. I know a lot
Was
of people
that
don't
messy
like
with an I or a Y?
Oh, that's a Y. That's a Y. Completely just the absolute mess. But no. Good. But I would be. It's going to be interesting to see the commentary if Miami somehow backdoors their way into a playoff spot by some weird, fluke thing. They need a lot of help, but look, man, this new playoff format, anything can happen, and I think that's what I love seeing.
Dylan, what's going on with you and Varsity Media, OSDB, MLSsoccer.com? What's going on?
Yeah, got a big game, big high school football broadcast Friday night. St. Anthony's against Iona Prep, rematch of last year's championship game. So that'll be Friday, 7:00. Varsity Media YouTube channel for OSDB Sports. I'm going to have a cool feature on Chris Wingert, former Real Salt Lake NYCFC defender turned agent now, and just about his second career, or his post-playing career, and how that's kind of panned out for him, and the differences from the everyday training and all that kind of stuff to now being an advocate for players, especially young players. So
looking forward to it as always, my friend. Glad that you get to spend time with your daughter, drop her off, race back in time to be with us at 10 o'clock on Wednesday mornings. Thanks as always, my friend, for hanging out. We'll catch up next week.
All right, buddies. See ya.
There's Dylan. And there goes Dylan with his mug. He is always perpetually, continually grateful.